So that's kind of a good, overview of your guys' services. Again, links in the description. If you need to lose some weight or whatever, they got good programs. Check them out. Um, yeah. So what I wanted to get to, like the real core of this, was what is your why? And Jonah can attest to this through football. And I'm sure everyone's heard it. It's probably not specific to football, but that's how we got it. They would always ask us, the coaches, like, "What is your why?" You have to know that so that you can push yourself through all the crap you have to deal with football and whatever else. So that's pretty pivotal, like your cornerstone. It's part of your core foundation. So I'm curious, what is your guys' why? You can do it separately, and then maybe your guys' together, and how that affects your life, your business, and then me and
Yeah,
James can go into like little tidbits of ours.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I'm going first. Yeah, I
Smart.
like because we do have both separate, like individual whys too. We've both had individual upbringing, so yeah, we do have individual whys, and we also have a collective why. So I'm glad you suggested that.
There is a
My
difference for
why,
sure.
yeah, my why is really deeply rooted in my childhood. So I had lost almost both my parents to heart disease. So I lost my mom when I was 8 years old to like very suddenly. She was only like 35 years old, and very healthy, like not really overweight. And so I lost her very suddenly to what they called an enlarged heart. So something that she was just genetically born with. And so right away,
Mm.
as a kid, I was very aware of the mortality and health and
Yeah.
how much how much can be wrecked when you don't have your health. Your entire life can be destroyed when you don't have your health. And then when I was in high school, when I was 16, my dad had 100% artery blockage in his heart, so he was literally minutes away from dying before they got him into the hospital, and saved his life. And so ever since, all my entire childhood, I've seen like health is so very important, to the point where for my birthdays, I wouldn't ask for presents or cards or anything. I asked for a gym membership. I asked for like a nutrition person consultation. Like that's what, like, ever since I was in high school, I've always been driven by good health, because I just know how important that is.
I was gonna
And
ask, how old were you when you asked for that as a birthday? That's such a I've never heard of that ever.
yeah, I was about like eight, like, oh, I was about like 16, 15 when I asked for gym membership. And then I was like 18 when I saved up a bunch of money before I went into college to take this like metabolic assessment thing, where they
Yeah.
like took my blood and they like tested my heart and everything, just so I can get like a feel for what was going on inside. And I remember a guy asked me, he was like, "Why have you been doing this? Like, people like are that typically have a lot of like metabolic and damage done to their body over a course of a few years, take these tests." And I was like, this is my
I
priority.
need to know. Give me the stats.
Yeah,
Like,
literally, I was like, I need to know. So that was my why coming into it. And I've actually always wanted to start a business. So I got my degree in entrepreneurship from Western
hmm
and marketing. And so I always told everyone, like, I want to start a business one day. And they'd be like, what kind? I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I feel
I
that.
had no idea what business I wanted to start. I just knew I wanted to start one. Like, I come from my father, my grandparents, my great grandparents were all business owners. So it's like, I want to own a business one day. And it just kind of happened so serendipitously, as like Jonah and I started like dating, and then we got engaged. And as we are getting married, like how he was kind of forced out of work, and at the time I was still working full time for for Western, and he would always gravitated to the fitness side of it through athletics. And so he came into personal training, and then through that came in through nutrition. And so he kind of like was the one that gave us the plunge into the health and fitness industry.
Sure.
And eventually, like when the business was actually starting to pick up, like since I got my degree in marketing, I helped him like build a website at first, because like you said, it was just him doing it all. And I would like help in every now and then, like bringing him like social media ideas and build his
Yeah.
website. And
Nice.
after that, like things were starting to pick up, and he always wanted me to quit my job and join him before we even like had the financial reason to do that. He was like,
Horrible
It's like, just
idea.
help.
What a horrible idea.
and so he'd always been like bugging me, like, let's do this, let's do this. And eventually I was just like, you know what, okay, like let's do this. And
Yeah.
went all in on it, made lots of mistakes along the way, but it just was perfect that, like, my deep desire for health and to be able to help others, combined with his actual, like his what do you call it, like his
Drive,
initiative.
determination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and his determination, his initiative to get something started. Because I'm always such a like planner, and he's like, let's
Yeah.
just to the deep end and do it. And so like us together, I think it just happened so beautifully the way it was supposed to.
Power couple. No, that's awesome. And you hit on a really good point about kind of where it's all those why questions, they kind of do stem from your childhood, right? We talk a lot, me and James, about, where your worldview is and why it comes from your upbringing, and analyzing like the past, the good and the bad, and realizing how it affects you, right? And trying to get all the effects to be positive rather than negative as much as you can. So, and especially with health, that's such a big one, and it did merge really well, like you said. That's awesome because you had your own health benefits with that. I'm curious what, because for me with that whole health subject, like it was more so growing up, I didn't have any healthy examples, and you mentioned health problems in your family, so that's why I'm curious. Did they have a healthy lifestyle? Were they out all the time? Were they exercising, or you feel like you had to get that gym membership to experience that side of it, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So growing up, it's so funny. My mom passed like when I was 8, so I was really early, so I didn't really fully get to know her to the degree I'd like to. But my aunt, her sister, would always say like, "Your mom ate organic before eating organic was cool." And so like that's kind of what I learned from her is that like from the beginning she believed in like growing her own food and eating organic. And I don't remember her exercising a lot, but she also had 4 kids. So,
Yeah.
and she was always outside with us and, was active. My dad, however, so my dad's entrepreneurship background, he didn't start it. So my grandpa started a chain of Mexican food restaurants. And so he's kind of always been around like, higher calorie, higher fat
Food.
foods
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so he's Mexican too. My mom is white, he's Mexican. So half my life I've always been like, eating enchiladas and tamales and everything, and you don't really think much of it, especially
It's good
since he was
stuff.
never. Yeah, it's delicious. And he was never like super overweight. Like he might have had like a gut, but he was never like significantly overweight. And so while my background is kind of mixed of having like this delicious Mexican food and also like organic homegrown food, it wasn't until after my dad's heart attack and that he started really taking care of his health and, realizing we were that close to death, he really started to turn things around. Like he exercises almost daily and he eats really
Yeah.
well.
That's good to have that example. And for me, I'm, as a new father and everything, like I said, I grew up a certain way, didn't have those healthy examples, grew up a fat kid and everything that comes with that. And then football kind of encouraged it. I was always the guy that would out eat everybody, and it kind of played into my role as an O lineman. But now that chapter of my life is done and I'm a father now, to become that leadership role and everything, I don't want to pass on those bad health habits to my kids, right? I want them to grow up better and have better opportunities. So, learning that healthy relationship with food is super vital. You're spot on with that and everything you guys are doing.
No, thanks. Yeah, and congratulations on being a father. It's crazy when you really like when you become a dad. I feel like you have to second guess everything you do.
A little bit. But so Jonah, what's your half, buddy? And we've gotten into some tough topics here. Nothing off the table, so don't
Yeah.
don't
So
play around.
mine is pretty deep, and I've only just now been able to get truly connected to it, even before I started doing this. So I grew up in a really rough household. I don't know my father. He actually went to prison for murder, and my mom subsequently married a couple other times after that. And my first stepdad was the worst human being I've ever met, and physically abusive, mentally abusive, verbally abusive on all fronts. And I was just, I remember he came into my life when I was about 8 years old, and then for about 3 years, it's pretty
Dark.
spotty. I don't remember much after that. And up until he left, but overall, like there was a lot of experiences, trauma that I had that made me feel really small and insignificant, and out of control of a lot of what I had in my life. And I found that control through sports, especially football. So I always gravitated towards football as I grew older. But I still kind of always had this insignificance feeling. No matter how many accolades I would get, no matter how many awards I would get, I never felt like I was truly good enough, and that stems from my childhood and what I went through. All the way until I got to college to play football. Not very many people do, and I told myself I'm going to be an All-American. Told myself I'm going to be an All-American, and I never quite lived up to the potential that I know I had, and I wasn't aware of why. And when you're not aware of your behavior, it's very frustrating. It's like I feel like I'm doing everything I can when in reality you're not. You're doing things that your current identity aligns with. So my identity was someone who's small and significant and just gets by and does the bare minimum. So that's exactly what I got for my football career. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was
No,
very
it's a lot of powerful stuff you said, like in that small little segment. That's a lot to
yeah.
unpack.
It's I've only just now really got like within the last year really connected to this. So it's easy for me to tap into that now, knowing what I do now. Because after college ended, and I had gravitated, it was my sole reason that kept me going. That was like my only form of control, my whole identity. I had a very mediocre career in college, but for some reason, but I was so petrified of losing that identity that I somehow convinced myself that I deserved to go play professional football. Like if someone gives me a shot, I'll prove them right. I'll prove them that I can do it. And I realized that like I was in this like blind like I just need to go like just give me a shot. So this is when I was introduced to personal training and skill development for the first time. So I thought like you only show up to practice and that's how you get better. I was not aware of trainers that are actually designed to help you increase your performance. So I got in that environment. That was my first time. I had a trainer. I was training with other athletes that were actual All-Americans that had a right to be there, getting that training, and actually had a chance to play professionally. And I trained with them for about 3 months, and I was just constantly being reminded of how mediocre I actually was and how far behind I was compared to these other guys. I was stronger than them. That was it. And it was super frustrating that they would beat me in every single drill, and I was underperforming in every aspect. Um, I gained 45 pounds in 3 months from grandma cooking, and
Yeah.
I was always an undersized D lineman, so I was like, okay, I just got to get bigger and I'll be better. And finally, I get to my professional football tryout, and it was just for the Canadian Football League, and it was my worst ever performance I've ever had. Like plus 5 second 40 time. I lost every one-on-one drill. Slowest L drill I ever did, like a 6 second L drill. Like it was bad. And I just remember sitting on that field. It was in Vegas. It was just so hot, and my cleats were melting. And I just sat there, just knowing that my career was over, and not
Wow.
knowing why. Not
Wow.
knowing why I always fell short. Why I wasn't able to live up to my potential. And I started with like my childhood because it's always kind of been making this it's rearing its ugly head all the way through. So because I had that why, and because I had that, or because I kept asking myself why, I went to my trainer and I asked him if I could have a job. I didn't have a certification to be a trainer, but he gave me the job, and they helped me the best they could, and I got in the environment of being a coach for people who I wish I had in high school. And I was a terrible fucking trainer. I'm sorry if I don't know if you
I mean, do your thing.
okay. And I was awful. I did not know what I was talking about. I was just completely BSing my entire way through. But there's this one athlete I got, right? And if you're not familiar, if you've never been in a training job, it's a sales job, and you have to convince people to buy your services. And I wasn't confident in what I could do. I was not confident in who I was. I was like, yeah, I get to coach you,
Didn't they like not even require you to get a
They didn't. Yeah,
certification?
like most places, you need a certification to be a trainer. They did not. Again, but I was also very poor. Again, an excuse I kept telling myself to not get certified. But overall, they did their best. They did give me some sort of certification, so I at least had the paper. But it did not help me in training athletes specifically. But anyway, the sales aspect I was terrible at, and I was like, all I want to do is coach people. Like, you just give me clients, I'll coach them. And I had one athlete who worked with me for a couple months, and he looked at me and said, "Thank you so much for all the help you did. I feel more capable than I ever have before." And that like sent chills down my spine. I was like, "Holy crap! I think I found what I want to do." So I had no idea what I want to do my entire life. I refused to be a coach. I told all my coaches, like, I'll never be a coach. I told Hannah, I'll never be a coach. And I fell into it from that one conversation. I was like, there's something here.
Yeah.
Right? My job was miserable for me because I wasn't performing well. I was actually at a very dark time, but that one conversation kept me coming back and kept studying, kept figuring things out. And so much so that I quit that job, got 4 certifications, then went to 24-hour fitness, and felt way more confident in myself. And really behind all this, I kept trying to understand why my own performance was super lacking. And as I started to uncover the pieces of my lack of mobility, flexibility, strength, and stability, I was like, oh, this is the stuff I wasn't aware of. And that awareness like taught me so much about how people are unaware of how they just behave in their general lives.
Yeah.
So it's not just the fact that you can work really hard on the football field or in the gym, but there's other things that you're not paying attention to. So
No,
as I understand, sorry, go ahead, Ted.
I just 100%, we talk about that a lot too, is like being intentional with what you're
Yeah,
doing, because we're oftentimes just meander kind of through life, and we're just taking what's coming at us, what's right in front of us, and kind of just self-serving, right? Instant gratification. How can I get what I want out of this scenario, instead of
yeah,
thinking outside of ourselves, and also just what's planning it, right? Just being intentional with what you're doing will put you so much farther ahead of the rest.
exactly. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I didn't know that, right? But not many of us know that. We just, like
No,
you
no,
said,
no.
yeah, you don't come to that realization until shit gets hard,
Yeah.
and then you're forced to look at it, right? So all in all, like I had so much more confidence in myself as a trainer at 24-hour fitness, but my clients weren't getting results. They weren't losing weight. I was like, what else do I need here, right? I was understanding movement. Then COVID happened, was furloughed, and then I was like, okay, Then I started doing everything online before I had the nutrition or mindset certification. So I was just kind of giving people workouts. Again, still no results. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should look at this whole nutrition thing. And that's where I went down the nutrition path for myself. Got the best results I've ever had. I was like, holy crap! I'm gonna give this to my clients now.
Yeah.
And then like I started to uncover like, okay, I have the fitness, I have the nutrition. Like, but what really stops people? What really slows people down? And then it goes back to like my true origins of understanding like why I've always felt insignificant, small, and weak, and why I didn't deserve to be happy, why I didn't deserve good things, and that came from my first stepdad who instilled that in me, right? And that made me look at like as people I was attracting as I was coaching, I was like, it's not that you're lazy, it's the subconscious self sabotage that it keeps coming up, keeps getting in your way.
Yeah.
So my own passion to understand where my struggles come from allowed me to start to piece together what health and fitness actually is. And I never want to feel weak, insignificant, or powerless ever again. And I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt for the vast majority of my life. And that's a very long-winded way of saying like that's my why I love empowering people to take back control and be intentional with what they do instead of unconscious and like going through life without really seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's so great. I talked about last time where we have to grow from our pain,
Mhm.
because if the pain is going to affect us either way, the past is going to affect us either way, we can decide whether it's positive or negative. I talked about at the start where it's like you can bury those problems or you can kind of bring them up and address them, right? And what I love about that, sharing that message, is because that's where we can kind of take that power back, right? When we can pull something positive from that dark space, like a person forgiven, someone, a lesson learned, a soul healed, anything like that. We can get anything positive from that, and then we can start sharing that with other people. That's when like they can learn the lesson without the pain, right? And that's when we start healing and everything. And so yeah, empowering people, like it's great, it's awesome. That's what it's all about, helping us kind of go through it together, right?
Right.
Making it personal.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so personal. Like it goes far. Like, and I'm glad you said that because it goes far beyond. When you start making those connections, you start really seeing like how it can affect those around you, right? That not only has like my own personal experience, but like my role as the oldest sibling in a very in a very tough household, and like inconsistent father figures. Like what I saw my mom go through. Another aspect of why I love helping women so much because my mom struggled so much with so
yeah.
many her own health issues, and there's so as we continue to grow as people, we get to continue to help and connect and like you said, help people grow and learn without the pain that we've seen or experienced. And yeah, I'm shaking. I fucking love it.
That's awesome, dude. You're so passionate, and you can see both of you guys like, and it melts together. It's like so perfectly. You guys balance each other out. That's great. Your growth and everything is like it's very clear why. It's very evident. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
100%.